So thank you for coming here today.
My pleasure,
So
my absolute pleasure.
The purpose of these sessions are to prove that films and television are made by real people, and there are real jobs that people living around here and in the Southwest. I know you are a real person because I've spent time with you. That there are jobs to be done, and also to demystify those jobs. And so, as one of the most successful directors of British and American television of the last X number of years, let's not feel we're old, but you know, of long standing.
Still got it.
Let's start with the basics, right? How would you? What I should say is, we'll do half an hour just talking here, and then we'll do 15 minutes if you guys want to ask any questions. So we'll work it like that. James Strong, director. How would you define the role of a director?
Oh, okay, good question. Right, so I think the director's main job is to be the captain of the ship that adapts what's on the page to what's on the screen. So we are the writer will have the, if you like, maybe the initial concept, and we'll put it down on paper and ostensibly deliver you a script. And it's my job to take that blueprint and brief all the different departments involved, and then we go to when we shoot it, I'm in charge of realizing that vision, of basically being the person that everyone asks, what is it? Is it blue? Is it green? Is it big? Is it small? Are we shooting it here? Are we shooting it there? But also to have the vision of what it's going to look like and what it's going to be translating to on the screen. And that's kind of very much in conjunction with the writer and with the team and with everybody you're making it. But you're the kind of captain, if you like. Yeah, you are the conduit. You're the center of the wheel. So everything kind of comes through you. And on the day when you're filming it, you're that person that leads from the front. You decide what we're doing, and in conjunction again with lots of other people and first ADs who do schedules and second ADs who organise all the bits and bobs. But you're that kind of creative and logistical kind of focus, if you like. So you're there to lead the troops forward, but also kind of give everybody clear directions on how to do their job, whilst also being there for the actors, to make sure the actors know exactly where they are in the story, in the material you're doing that day. But also then you're doing the technical side of it. You're also briefing the camera team and the visual side of it to make sure that the camera is taking all the different shots that you need to tell the story. So you're the kind of constant, if you like, from that whole process, from script to screen. And then I will, have previously done that, the prep to kind of all those decisions about where we're filming it, what day we're filming it, what the schedule's going to be like, what location, are we doing a build, or are we doing a set build, or are we doing a location, and then also casting the actors and making sure we choose the right people for the right role. So you're involved in every single aspect of film, of making it happen. But you're the kind of go-to voice, along with the writer, I must say. It's always best when it's in conjunction with the writer. So you have this unified vision. But in terms of the kind of technical nitty-gritty on the day, the actual physical making of it, that's my job, to kind of steer the ship and always be clear that everyone knows the direction of travel, if you like. Lots of metaphors in that, but that's the kind of. I think it's just it's the best job in the world because you're doing every job, because every single department comes to you and asks how you want it to be. So the best thing you can do is give them a clear answer, and then they can go, right, I know what we're doing. We're doing this. He wants that, and he wants that, and we're going to do that then. And so everybody can get on with their job, and you're all pushing in the same direction and delivering the same vision.
Great. Somebody in the front went, "Oh, good job."
A big job.
Oh, big job. Sorry.
Big job.
Yeah, quite right.
Side job.
So, one of the big questions for these sessions is, what do you do all day, from day to day? So let's, because that's a big question for a big job. Let's break it down. There are there are three phases of making a film or a TV show in terms of pre-production, production, shooting, and post-production.
Yeah.
we'll come to maybe how you choose projects and things like that a bit later. But in terms of you join a project and then, so let's go through pre-production. Talk us through your day when you wake up in the morning, when you're working in pre-production on a show and what you do.
So pre-production has also different kind of moments in it which all lead up to production when you're actually filming. So pre-production is the planning, is when you sit and you work out all the logistics that you're going to need to put in place to make the shooting as optimal as possible. So that would probably be, first of all, you would take the script and you would look at it and you would analyse it and you would talk to the writer, and so you would understand the intent, the creative intent of the story and what is required. Then alongside that, there will be first of all big decisions about where are we filming it, and what are we going to film on location, and what are we going to film maybe in a set, which is what we build, like a set, a construct. So those kind of decisions get taken quite early on, and a lot of early prep is location hunting. So you're driving around, looking for different places that fit the locations scripted in the script. And that also might be a kind of a two-way process. You might come back and you go, we can't find the house that's described in the script quite like that, but there's this with the writer, and you'll discuss, okay, well maybe we modify the script and we change it and stuff. And also you'll be instructing the location team to find these places. You'll also be talking to the designer who's in charge of the set, the production design, about what stuff you will build. So if we're building a police station, or we're building a police station with an office, or with a interrogation room, and all these different things. So the construction team will be getting on with that. The location team will be getting on with finding locations. And then the third, probably big bit, is casting. So we'll have a casting agent, director, who will have broken down the script and will be bringing in lots of lovely actors to kind of audition for all the roles. And a lot of that now, when you're at the sort of higher level, will be discussions with the writer, with our exec producers about who we want, and it might be we're offering people, because they're big name actors, and so there'll be a kind of process where we go down the list of all the actors and we get everybody in place. And then on top of that, I'll be working with the first AD to look at the schedule, and the schedule is like the Bible. It's like which basically sets out every single day of the shoot and what we're doing each day, which is the most important document of the whole filmmaking process. And every single department will kind of look at that script to make sure their bit is ready for that day. So whether it's the costumes, whether it's the makeup, everyone looks and uses the schedule. That's why the schedule is so, everyone's like, where's the schedule? Where's the schedule? Because that is the Bible that everybody needs to also do their job. So everyone's looking at, where in the schedule things happen so they can make sure they're ready for that. And again, this schedule, right up until filming and beyond, is a moving kind of jigsaw, because if we're going to build a police station, then the guys and the girls need the time to build that police station. So therefore, it can't probably be the first thing we film because it won't be ready. So you have to, it's this constant dialogue of making the schedule work in tandem with finding the locations, building the sets, casting the show, and all of those things kind of come together as you get towards production. Things get more and more kind of finalized, and the schedule gets firmer and firmer, if you like. So by the time you hopefully go into production and start filming, everyone knows the next 6 weeks what exactly they're doing on every single day. Now, of course, there's little changes along the way, and the weather's terrible next Thursday, so we need to move things around. So there's not a lot, but there's a degree of flexibility, which again is to maximize. It's all about maximizing resources, because there's never enough money. So you have to box clever and make sure you maximize everything you do to make it as effective. And also alongside all of that, I'm making sure it's all creatively exactly what is required, what is servicing the script the best, what is my vision of it is it being portrayed and expressed in all the decisions that were happening, because every single detail is important. So you have to be forensically across every single department, really, and that's why it's like every job, because every job is my job as well. So I have to be aware, and so again, on the day when someone turns up with a prop, it could be a mobile phone or whatever, and it arrives on set, and I'm like, oh gosh, no, I don't think that's right for the character. Well, that's my fault, because I should have asked to see that prop and earlier. So there's lots of checks and balances along the way, and meetings and moments where each department almost like takes it in turn to present to me where they are, and we can always keep refreshing and making sure the whole vision, the whole concept, the whole kind of shoot is coming from the right direction to deliver what we hope is the best result.
Brilliant. Can you clarify one little thing in there? You talked about a first AD.
Yeah.
So, which stands for First Assistant Director.
Yeah.
And you have an assistant directing team. Just talk us through what those people are and what their jobs are, just super quick, so people understand the makeup of people around you.
So I'm the director, and then in my department, I have a first assistant director, a second assistant director, and a third assistant director, and you might have floor runners and people like that. So the first AD is probably my most it's like my lieutenant, if you like. They are the person who fundamentally does the schedule. That's their job to construct, create and run that schedule. So again, all these departments know exactly what they're doing, but then their job on the day changes slightly to them being the person that runs that schedule. So they'll look at the day every day and go, right, we're doing 6 scenes, 3 before lunch, 3 after lunch. We need to hit this time, so everything's timed out, and they're kind of running the floor, if you like. They're telling everybody on the crew what's going on. And so they're so important because they are the source of information. I am too, but my job then is more on set, is more to be talking to the actors, talking to the creative side of it, so the logistical side of it. They all go hand in hand, and it's a constant dialogue, but the first AD is there next to me, telling everybody what's going on and telling me, look, we should have finished this scene an hour ago. You need to hurry up, because it's all about hitting each day, finishing each day, so we're not carrying material over, because there's only so much time in every day, and we don't have time to maybe carry stuff, so we've got to get it all done. So there's that, again, that constant tension or kind of dialogue to keep it going. So alongside the first AD, there's the second AD. They tend to sort of sit in the trailer, offset, and their job is making sure mainly all the cast and all the actors get picked up from their hotels, brought to the base where we kind of have all our trucks and stuff, and they get put through the works, which is, as it's called, which is when they go and get their hair and makeup done, and then they go to their trailer and their costumes there, so that when the first AD calls that actor to be on set for 11 o'clock, the second AD has made sure they arrived, had breakfast, been to the loo, got the hair and makeup done, had their breakfast and costume on, and the car picks them up to bring them to set for 5 to 11, so they're ready to go. That's their job. Alongside that, they're also working with the first AD on the schedule to make sure if there are any changes that the schedule for tomorrow needs to change. So every day the second AD reissues a call sheet, which is basically the information for the next day's filming, so that everyone's got in their inbox and their email. And it used to be handed out at the end of every day, but now it's all paperless, very right. That they get an email with the call sheet, which just reminds everybody what scenes we're doing next day. So everybody, and also where it is, where's the location, so everybody knows, all the crew know where they're driving to, so they put it in their sat nav. So again, keeping the communication going, that everybody knows what's going on. The third AD, we'll get through the ADs in a minute.
It's good though, because this is the stuff you never know.
The third AD is with me on set, and their job is basically to look after the background, the extras. So if it's most scenes, a lot of scenes have background artists who are the people that kind of make an office look busy. They're supporting artists, they're incredibly important. And so the third AD will often watch my rehearsal and then put in the background. they call dress in all the supporting artists. So when we do the shot, they're moving around, they're having a cup of tea, or they're talking in the background, or they're making the shot look real, because we've got real people in the background. So the third AD will work with me to kind of design that background. And that's, you know, a really important job, because if we're saying this office, police office, has got to look really busy, then the third AD has to brief all the extras to look busy. But it can't look too busy, otherwise you don't believe it. And so it's often a really delicate calibration, and background's a really big focus for me, because I think if you get it right, you can make it look much busier than it really is with a few people. But if it wants to look quiet, then it's got to look quiet, and you've got to not have things that are too distracting. Because if you're having an actor doing a really important, scene, and some guy in the background's kind of laughing and waving his hands around, you're like, all I'm looking at is that guy in the back there, and get him out. So it's a really vital kind of part of the language of the filming and stuff. And then you'd have runners beyond that, which they're kind of spanning, they might be helping bring the actor from the car to the door, they might be just around getting people a cup of tea, or they might just be helping, we might be filming and we need to be on the street, and we need to stop traffic and hold people, hold members of the public for 30 seconds while we shoot. And that's where runners, often with location assistants, so from the locations department, who have kind of locked down all these places, they will often work together to make the shots all work, and so we're not disrupting things too much if we're filming on location.
Great, thank you.
There we go.
And then, so let's move. I mean, you've gone on to a little bit of filming there as well. But talk us through your day then. Once it gets to the shoot, you've prepped your show, your film beautifully, and then it's day one shooting. You wake up in the morning. What happens, James?
You wake up very early in the morning is what happens first of all, because it's usually a normal filming day. It does vary a lot, but you'd normally be starting filming at 8 o'clock and you'd film till 7. That's a sort of standard filming day. So I would like to get to the set at 7:30 to be there half an hour just to make sure everything's all right. So I would then be arriving to have something to eat at 7 o'clock. So depending on where you're staying near the location, you're getting up and you're leaving at 6:30, between 6 and 6:30 in the morning. And you'd get there, and first of all you go to the production wagon and you just check everything's all right, that the actors who should have been picked up are on their way, and everything's okay and everything's going on. You talk to the director of photography, who's kind of one of your key kind of collaborators, who's the head of the camera team, the cinematographer, checking in with him or her that everything was okay, his crew, her crew are all okay. And then I like to go to the set and just have that moment of kind of peace and quiet, at maybe half an hour before call, when everyone arrives on set to start work, and just have the day's sides, or we call the sides, but the pages, the actual script with it. And what you'll have is those days' scenes all put together in a little package called the sides, or A4 paper. Or you might have it on your iPad if you want it, but I've always never managed to. I always preferred it physically. And I just love that kind of 20 minutes, half an hour of just walking around the space. And it might be that the designer and her team, or his team, are still dressing the set. They're finishing off. It's like a kind of, the kind of student play sometimes. They're just desperately putting up, curtains or finishing things off. But you get that chance just to, think about what you're going to do that day. Because in prep, you've done lots of thinking about how you want to shoot something, but often you'll go and see a location and it's completely empty. It's an empty room, and you'll come on to set and it's been dressed and it's full of furniture and it looks amazing and it looks completely different. So you've got to kind of make sure the shots and the way you were going to shoot it now matches the set. And equally, you might go, oh gosh, that table's in the wrong place. We need to move it around, and there might be some last minute rejigging and stuff. But it just gives you that moment of calm. So then at 8 o'clock, that's called call time, and that's when everybody comes on set. So the crew are all on set, and then the camera team are all setting up the lights and all that stuff. And the actors will be called to set, and we'll do a rehearsal. So we'll kind of have the scene and we'll block it through with the actors, and we'll kind of find the scene and talk about the script if there's any questions. Then once we're happy with the blocking, with the rehearsal, what tends to happen is we will then invite certain members of the crew to watch this rehearsal, and then from there the cast will probably go back to their trailers to get finished off in their hair and makeup, and then come back, and then a little bit later when they're ready, and meantime the lighting is happening and the cinematographer's setting all the lights and making sure it's all right, they'll come back, and depending how long that takes, about 45 minutes later we're filming.
Great.
And that's the process that happens all day. There are variations to that, because sometimes I don't like to rehearse, because sometimes that rehearsal can if it's an emotional scene and it requires someone to be kind of upset or angry, or to do it and rehearse it a few times, you maybe lose some of that first initial kind of impact. So there may be times where I will bring the actors to set, we'll kind of block it through, but without them performing it and really kind of giving it 100%. I'll say, look, we're just going to walk it through so we can show the camera team and the cinematographer where you're going to be, but hold it. Don't go. I mean, I probably do that on most blockings anyway. I don't want the actors to do an amazing performance that only me will ever see, because it's better to have it on camera, whatever it is, and then we can work with it from there. So we'll bring the actors on, and we'll set the cameras rolling, and then we'll do it and stuff. And then if we need to do it again, and then we'll do it again. And then we begin to break the scene down with however many shots we think are required. It might be one shot and we've got it all, hooray. Or it might be 4 shots because we've got to do different angles and people move around, and there's a kind of, technical kind of process of us covering the scene where we get all the different shots that we need. So in post-production, I've got all the different material angles, shots I need to construct the scene in the way I want to tell it.
So, thank you. You've beautifully shot your beautifully prepped show,
Yeah.
and now you're moving into post-production.
Yeah.
Give us a quick guide to your day in post when you change to that mode.
So post is a little bit more, the hours are a little bit more kind of sensible generally. So you would get to the edit suite probably about 10 o'clock this time, so it's a little bit later than a filming day. And so the other thing to say is while we're filming, so every single day we're filming, at the end of that day, on little cards which come from going outside the camera, those cards go off to the edit suite. So the editor, he or she is sat in their room somewhere, usually, I don't know, it can be with us on location, or it could be in another part of the country. But they'll get all of the rushes, we call it, and they will begin to assemble each day's rushes. So every day we're filming, then the next day the editor will be assembling those rushes. So very quickly, I and the execs and the writers can see how the material is coming together. And it just helps if there's any concerns about anything, and it could be a costume or a performance, or it could be a little thing or it could be a big thing, but everyone has that sort of eye on things, just to keep an eye on what's coming. So when I finish filming and go into the edit, I can pretty much watch the whole episode or film or whatever it is all cut together. Now it might be quite rough around the edges, but it's kind of all there. So then one of the first things in the early stages of post-production is to just watch it, and you kind of go, okay, overall it's working. That needs a lot of work, that's not working, or that is great. But then you start doing loads of runs. You basically start at the beginning and you go through the whole episode making changes and fine cutting, it's called. And I'll just go and make modifications, trims, edits, add bits of music, add bits of, extra dialogue if it's needed. And we just make it all as good a watch as you possibly can. And also those early cuts so an average ITV TV episode is about 43 minutes long. The rough cut that I come into in the first day could be 65, 70 minutes long. So one of the big challenges is to get it to time. For me, I like to, because the ultimate goal is to then present this episode to the writer, the producers, the commissioners, the people that are paying for it. And I like to present as polished and as kind of finished a watch as possible, because I think that's what people expect to watch, a kind of an easy watch. So there's music, it's cut to time, it flows, and it's got all of the kind of things that make it an enjoyable watch. So you're trying to make it as good as you possibly can in those, and that usually takes 2 weeks of kind of every day, just chipping away, polishing, refining, experimenting, getting it to sort of where you, and it might be you kind of do the editor and you go, no, there's a better take of that. So you're looking at performances, you're looking at all the different rushes and options you've got to try and maximise to make the best episode you can. And sometimes that can be just fine-tuning, or sometimes it could be, oh gosh, this is not working, we need to really, and there might be moving scenes around, it might be changing the order, it might be being quite radical sometimes, but it's all for kind of making it the best it can possibly be. And then you invite the writer, the producers to watch and hear their thoughts. And then culminatively, we all kind of, and it's weird, we always sort of in the end come to a consensus about what is the right, and there's sometimes big debates about that, and it's all fun, and it gets quite, everyone gets like, no, and it can get quite sort of heated, but it's all good kind of creative discussions, and then you get to a position where we're all happy with it. Then you probably show it to ITV or the BBC or Netflix or whoever, and they'll have thoughts and stuff. So then there's processes of notes giving until you get to the final point where you go, it's done, it's locked. And then when it's locked, it goes to the final stage where everyone mixes the music, they make the picture grade, it makes it look gorgeous, and they put the credits on, and it's sort of done. But it's always evolving and kind of developing and changing and modifying right up until that moment. So as a director, from that very first moment when I read the script in the first time, you are the guardian of the story and of that vision right the way through to that final moment where it's locked. And even beyond that, when they're putting the visual effects or the CGI in, or the colouring the pictures, or you're guarding there as well, just to make sure nothing dilutes or spoils that absolute vision. So, yeah.
And zooming out, what do you think are the most important traits for a director to have? Sort of personal traits for anybody in the room who might want to be a director. Talk about those characteristics that might be useful.
Yeah, I think it's resilience and an ability to kind of be in the long, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I think that's an important thing. I mean, just the energy levels are making sure that you're kind of, giving your energy, saving your energy for the bits that require it most, which is the shooting, but making sure in prep you're kind of paying attention to all those things. I think it's a mixture of sort of stubbornness and flexibility. So it's about being clear on your vision and being really resolute at pushing that through. But also there's the flexibility that, oh gosh, on the day, it's pouring with rain. What are we going to do now? Well, we have to pivot and do it in a cafe or under a bus shelter, or you can have an idea about how a scene should be played, and then the actor will come on and do something amazing, and you're like, wow, okay, that's different to what I thought, but I'm gonna go with the best idea. So you have to have that kind of flexibility to be able to kind of draw on and a good idea is a good idea from anybody in the crew or cast. So you often have to be the filter to get the best out of everybody, but equally there's the point at which you go, that's a great idea, we're not going to do it. We're going to do what I say, and we're going to do this. Because often there's a lot of, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. You're the person, your main job is to go, we're doing this, so everyone get on board. And that clarity of vision, I think, enables everybody to do their best work. Because if the person on the top doesn't know what's going on in the day, or is kind of, oh, I don't know, we could do that, yeah, that looks great, or we could do that, then everything starts to slowly fall apart and crucially slow down. And actually the key thing also with all of this thing is to keep moving. You've got a day's worth of material, you've got a week's worth of material, you've got a month's worth of material, and it's no good having one scene that looks amazing, but you took all morning, so you've dropped 2 in the afternoon. It's always these kind of value judgments of, okay, I think I've got it, we've got it enough, let's move on, we've got it, let's move on. So you maximise every single scene's ability to be as brilliant as it possibly can. So cumulatively, it all is as good as it can be. Because you don't want half the film to be brilliant, and half the film, oh yeah, we only had 10 minutes, sorry. The audience don't hear your excuses or know that, yeah, there was traffic on the way in, so that's why that, you can't have, no one knows what happened. They can only judge on what ends up on screen. So you're kind of focused, just almost to shut the noise out and just focus on what's happening, keep moving, and there might be all sorts of dramas going on backstage, or an actor's ill, or someone's fallen down the stairs, or there's something going on. You just have to sort of remain a little kind of narrow-minded and keep your eye on the prize, which is what's actually being recorded on the camera. Because also it might be amazing, there's an amazing sunset. Well, if it's not on the camera, no one's ever going to remember that or see it. So it's having that cast iron view and vision, but also being sensible and kind of flexible enough to just adapt, to keep everything moving, but also to maximise and make the best show you possibly can, and be bold and go, you know what, that sunset is amazing. We're going to take this scene and we're going to do it out there. Or I remember there was Broadchurch, there's a scene where Jodie and Andy are in the kitchen, and we knew the sunset was going to, so we gambled and did another scene so we could come back and do it when the sun was just at the perfect level, and it was flaring through them, and it was beautiful. But that wasn't exactly how the day had been scheduled, but I was like, it's worth it to go for that. We need to switch things around and, kind of go for it and maximise everything that you can do.
Yeah, first episode, I remember it very clearly. So just final question from me before we open it up, which is, I think there may be people who'd be very interested to know, if you, for anybody who's wanting to become a director today, what advice would you have on what pathways do you think there are? Because it's a very fast-changing industry.
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult thing to get into the business, but there's always been that way. I didn't go to film school. I did a geography degree in Sussex, but I loved the amateur dramatics. I loved the drama, and the moment when I was 14, I think I was choosing my GCSEs, and I chose art. And I went home and I watched Miami Vice on the telly, on a black and white telly, which is a bit of a shame for Miami Vice, given the costumes. And I'm like, no, that's what I want to do. That somehow, I'm in Portishead, sat in my bedroom watching a black and white telly, that Miami Vice. And I'm like, no, there's something in that world that I want to do. And so I went in the next day and changed to drama. And from then on, I didn't come from a filmmaking family, and my dad worked for a tobacco factory and my mum was a librarian. There was no filmmaking DNA in anything I'd ever come from, and yet I knew it was what I wanted to do. And I just moved almost subconsciously towards that field. And initially it was drama. It was the drama society at uni. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be an actor. I want to be an actor. And then I realised I'd be a terrible actor. I was rubbish. But I still wanted to be in that world, so I directed little bits of theatre at uni. And then, getting into filmmaking, I was like, oh, how the hell is that ever going to work? But I kind of then thought, well, actually, if I can't do it directly, then I'll become a journalist. And so then I got a week's work experience at HTV West in Bristol, and that turned in 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And then I was out making little news films, and those little news films got bigger and bigger. And then I'm like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to tell stories with pictures. And then Granada were running a director's training course, and it was like the X Factor. There was like 6,000 people, and I got it. And then I was just shadowing and watching, and I got onto This Morning with Richard and Judy, as it was then, and I started making the little films, gardening, fashion, cookery. They were terrible, but it's my film school was these these little films where I would go back and the editor would go, well, you're making a gardening show about this pineapple tree and there's no shot of the tree, and you're like, oh yeah, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, yeah. So you learn how to tell stories with pictures, and then slowly and gradually I kind of got into documentaries and started doing crime documentaries, and then realised that most crime documentaries, the people that are in them, the murderer and the victim, are dead, or in prison. So I started writing little bits of drama, and then I did a short film, and then it all suddenly, I got into Doctors and Casualty and Holby and stuff. And then made my way up into Doctor Who and all these shows, which is, I was very, very lucky. But there was still lots, and it was still really hard. It was still really tough, and there was lots of people who wanted to do it and just sort of gave up along the way. But I think if you, first of all, aim to just be in that field, that world, it starts to infect, and you can start to decide what bit of it you want to do and what bit of it appeals to you. And, I made my first short film. We had to shoot it on Super 16 because that was what short films were made of. Now, everyone's got a 4K camera in their pocket. So, although it's never been harder to get into the industry in many ways, it's never been more egalitarian in terms of anybody can make a film. And, I'm a member of the Directors UK, which is our guild, and we had a meeting last week, and there was a guy who just started making little films with his friends for YouTube, and then he got a BBC4 kind of comedy, and now he's off and running as a director. So making your own material, and also a big thing is not waiting for permission to do it yourself. I think even now, directors, there's moments where you're not working and you sort of sit around going, oh, why is my agent calling? Why am I not working? Well, no, I'm going to make my own thing. I'm going to do my own little documentary. I'm going to generate my own projects, because I'm not going to wait for somebody to give me the chance to do what I want to do. So although it's in many ways never been harder, there's still huge opportunities for people to make their own material, to show what they can do. And if you're good at what you do and you've got that spark and that kind of ability, it will come out and you will get noticed, and it will, the TV film industry is still hugely popular. People will always want to watch films, TVs, we hope. So they're going to need people coming through when people like us are no longer around. Not for a while, but one day. So it is about just kind of, and it's hard because you sort of, sometimes you feel you do it in a vacuum. And I talk to lots of young directors, and they're making their short films and they're desperately trying to get into television and do it as a living. But they're going to get there eventually if that's the right thing for them to do. If they're good enough, then their voices will be needed, because it's there's too much at stake for them not to be. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's open it. Does anybody have any questions for James on any subject? Yes, sir.
Television has always historically been often a case where you'll have 6 episodes and you'll have 2 or 3 directors doing a kind of a block, if you like, or a couple of the episodes. So, and I've done it where I've Broadchurch, you kick off, you're the creator, director, if you like, and part of your job is to ensure other directors following on from you continue the creative style, if you like. So I will often create a Bible or a kind of lookbook or physically talk to the other directors to make sure so it feels like, we always talked about Broadchurch as one story, one film, it just happens to be 8 hours long. And so that continuity of a creative approach is really important, that the people involved give the information to the people following, that so we're all making the same show. So the viewer watches it and they not they don't notice, but there's subconsciously it all feels of the same DNA, of the same show, so it doesn't, and if I'm, when I previously have come in and done episodes of another person's show, my responsibility, I feel, is to not, suddenly change everything and do it a completely different way, but to be a position of continuity, so that I carry the baton and pass it on to the next person. And so again, it's all about continuity. But I equally, there's kind of, the film is the director's one vision, but I think, with something like the Post Office, I did all of it, so that's like, again, my vision all the way through. But I don't think it's necessary. It's quite a common thing for multiple directors to do a television job, the series. I think it's about the people around it, everyone making sure that the continuity is there, so the artistic vision is kind of the same, a constant throughout. It's a bit depressing to have loads of material that that the cast and crew have sweated and toiled over days of material, and that then just gets discarded. And I think budgets and schedules are designed these days with the budgets are tight, so there isn't much fat, if you like. So the challenge is to kind of give you enough room to maneuver, to make it the best it can possibly be, but you don't want to be doing, and that happens in the script stage early, in the scheduling stage. So a lot of those decisions, you're not going in shooting a script that's 85 pages long, when you know that the episode is 40, it's 1 minute a page. So the script has to be hopefully as close to what the length you want it to be at the end, but with a little bit of massaging around the edges, so that there is room, because some things expand when you shoot them and some things contract. Equally, there's the odd occasion where you haven't got enough and you have to sort of think, oh gosh, we have to stretch things out a little bit and stuff. But generally, you're getting things to time. But also, you want to, it's a balance, because you don't want to get to time and then suddenly it doesn't make sense because you've had to cut loads of different things out that don't make any, that were really important. So you have to keep an eye on the plot and make sure it all makes sense whilst retaining all the bits that you need, all the good bits and stuff. So it's a real juggling act to kind of keep that balance of servicing the story and the cut and making it as, because also you might want moments of nothing's happening. There's moments of landscape or music, or it's not all talking back to. So you have to kind of find the rhythm of the episode, and that's often where you'll be taking stuff out just to give other things more room to breathe or have more emphasis. But it's not always, sometimes it's a difficult process. With the Post Office, there was one or two really important scenes that we just couldn't justify, for the good of the whole cut, they had to go. So that does happen sometimes, and it's not always easy, but you don't want to have reams and reams of material, because then something's gone wrong, because you're just wasting, you're on a day's worth. Filming is really expensive, so if you film for a whole day and then none of that again ends up in the cut, that's a massive waste of resources. So you want to give yourself options, but you don't want to be, I don't like to shoot 50 takes of something. If you need to know you've got it, and then you move on. Yes and no. Budgets have got tighter, but there's always been that pressure to get things done on seemingly impossible schedule. I mean, this was talk about the glory days. There's never been any money when I've been doing it. It's always been, oh my God, we're rushing to the end to get it all in and stuff. So there's always been that pressure. I think the things like the streamers have brought in a different kind of pressure that there often isn't. Perhaps there's often with Apples and Amazons and Netflix, there's maybe sometimes more money and more time, but that brings its own problems as well, because then there's a lot more, well, let's do that just in case, we'll do that just in case, and it can, and there's lots of layers of kind of executives and people, and so and working in America, there's like lots of different layers of people who have opinions. So the politics of being a director has got slightly different, I think. Well, the big jump was from film to digital, which happened sort of before, just before I was kind of doing kind of high-end drama directing, and that kind of transformed, because film stock was very expensive. So you would do one take, and oh God, do we need to go again? Yes, we have to. So we go again. So it was very much a kind of minimal shooting ratio. Digital opened that up because we can shoot as much as you want, really. So that kind of overnight changed the way film directing, I think, kind of. Yeah, it is. But like we sort of talked about earlier, that's where you need to sort of know when you've got it and judge that, because it doesn't give you more time. It just gives you more time to, you can just keep going as long as you want. So you can do 30 takes, but do you have time to do 30 takes? No. So it gives you that little bit more flexibility. But again, that brings its own kind of challenges as well. So you've got to kind of manage that. But yeah, I mean, technology has improved a lot. So things like, the cameras are a lot more reliable. Monitors, where you watch what's going on, all had to be cabled, and that was a nightmare. So now they're all wireless and stuff. And now everybody can watch the rushes, watch the shot we're doing on their iPads. So technology has been an amazing kind of help in terms of making the filming process so much more efficient, and you can get a lot more done and move much more nimbly. And cameras are much more, able to work in different difficult conditions, low light or heat, or So all these things are kind of making our job easier, but they bring their own. The old-fashioned pressures are still there, if you like. I mean, I say background. I mean,
you are in a lot of your shows, though, James. The big secret is,
yes,
and I say this,
because
you are in Mr. Bates versus Post Office as a news reporter.
Yes.
And you are in most of the things that you make.
I mean, I'm sort of still probably a frustrated actor, but I was terrible. So, I mean, I wouldn't say my background was as in. I remember I was at university, and I was in the production of Macbeth as third spear carrier, and Ian Shaw, it was Robert Shaw's son, was playing Macbeth, and I stood and watched him and I went, I could never do that. I could be acting for 40 years. I just can't do that. And Ian's gone on to, he's had a good career, but he's not, but I love actors. I love what they do, and I love working with them, and I think they do an amazingly vulnerable thing by putting themselves out there, and so my little experience of acting, and also, there is the odd moment where the case in point on the Post Office where it needed a reporter, and I, because my first job, as I mentioned, was a TV reporter. I was like, let me do it. I know, because we had a guy, an extra, and he was like terrible. So I was like, get him out of the way, and I did it. And so there's a little bit of frustrated actor in me, but I like to do a little tiny thing in some things, but you don't want to see my Hamlet. Three things. Well, casting would be one, because script, casting, and edit. I don't know. Yeah, script.
I'm glad you said script.
Yeah. If the script's no good, you're done. You can have an amazing set of actors and a brilliant cinematographer, but the script's not any good, you might as well forget it from the start. So it begins and ends with the script for me. Actors, having the right people, and that's not necessarily big names, but the right people in the role, that's amazing. And then I think the other thing is working with people that you love and respect and like, because it's a really tough job, and it's hard work, and the pressure is often really tough. So therefore, the people you work with, and that choice of the people you work with, is really important. So it's recognizing, this is an amazing script. I can't not do this. I want to do it. And then finding those amazing people that bring it to life, and then the collaborators with you that are going to help you realize that vision. It's those three things that make the gold. So you're a bit like an actor, really. I have an agent, and the production, BBC or ITV will have a new project, and they'll give it to a company to make, and that company will phone all the agents and go, we've got this new project, what directors have you got available? And then my name will get put forward with loads of others, and if they like me or they want to, they'll be, be called in for an interview, and some you get, some you don't. And then sometimes when you get to a certain level, you get sent things and go, would James like to do this? And then you take a view. But, you know, it's still a very competitive business. So just when you think, surely I've made it, you know, then there's another ceiling, and there's other people trying to nick your jobs. So yeah, it's always a kind of tough thing. But you know, you're always interviewing and auditioning as far as you get. Yeah, never let the actor decide. Never. Don't trust them for a minute. One of the key things for a director is to very quickly work out what each actor needs. Now, some actors, they want to be told exactly what to do. They want to talk about every single aspect of the character. They want to talk about every single aspect of their performance and take, and it's a constant dialogue. Some, Toby Jones, doesn't want to talk about it. He'll in rehearsal ask questions, but on the day, yeah, of course there's a dialogue, but he knows what he's doing, and you know, so there's some that require lots of attention, and there's some that require very little and don't like being constantly kind of told what to do. So it really is a kind of, and that's where, if we have time for rehearsal, then you'll sit around with the script and talk about it, and we'll talk about the characters, and that for me is really important. That's sussing out, okay, what does this actor need? What do they want and stuff? And it is about listening to and talking about what their thoughts are on the performance, what they think about it, and just marrying that with what I think the character should be and stuff. So I've always got an idea of what I think the performance is, if to default to. Then it's about seeing what the actor brings to it, and then just seeing if it needs modifying, or sometimes you might go, oh wow, I hadn't thought of that, but that's of course that's it. That's much better than my idea. So it is always going with the right idea, but that has to be kind of bedrocked by a clear sense of who I think the character is and what's going on, and what is needed for this scene and this character and this story.
Well, the bell has tolled for us outside.
That's me, Tim.
So please join me. Number one, join us tomorrow. We will have Francesca Massariel and Caroline Greville-Morris production design tomorrow, same time, same town hall. But please, James, you've been amazing. Please put your hands together for James Scott.